wow, oh, wow, wow, wow. All right then.
Grazie.
Grazie.
A bella notte.
It's so funny that Joe Mantegna? Mantegna? How do you say
Joe
his name?
Mantegna. Yeah, there you go. Fat Tony, as I know him on The Simpsons.
Yeah, like he essentially became the bad stereotype for Italian mobsters after this. And everything after this. He was that mobster.
Well, he didn't let it get in the way that sometimes he knew Hollywood wanted to make fun of the Italian-American mafia connection. So he could play it straight, like Godfather 3, or parodying it.
I only really remember him from the one show that he was on.
Yeah, like Criminal Minds or something like that.
Yeah, I like him much more as Criminal Minds mode. Like, I think he's more handsome nowadays than he was in this movie.
Yeah.
Welcome, everyone, to this monumental episode of Aaron and Justin Talk Sequels. Because today we're covering The Godfather Part 3.
The good one.
The good one. And after watching this movie and reading about it, I realized that today I'm going to cover this not as the sequel to The Godfather and The Godfather 2, but I'm covering it more as the third in a trilogy of legacy sequels that came out in 1990.
Yeah, there were a number of them.
At that point, I don't think so many legacy sequels had ever come out together because many people consider A Color of Money the first one, 1986. And so this year, we have already covered Texasville, The Two Jakes.
That's right, 1990.
And 1990, and then The Godfather Part 3 was there too. 1990 was a crazy, weird year for sequels. There were a ton of them. But we have these three legacy sequels by three creators. Coppola, Peter Bogdanovich, literally the same age. And then Nicholson was 2 years older than them. So we had three guys in their early 50s revisiting previous work. And we know Nicholson is fine where he's at.
Yeah, well, Nicholson was an actor, so he was able to maintain his fame and status while still like being like, oh, I want to be a director.
Yeah.
But those other two guys, like their popular award-winning self was definitely the early 70s.
Yeah, these guys were huge in the 70s and the 80s. Their star had sullied.
Yeah, big time.
And Bogdanovich and Coppola especially, this movie was his chance to get some fire going again and restore his shine. Because no matter how much people talk shit about Godfather Part 3, it was still a hit. Still made a lot of money. People were very excited about it.
Am I just softening in my older age? Am I not understanding why people hate what they hate when it comes to movies? Because I watched it and I said, I didn't hate that. And I didn't find it embarrassing. I've always heard of this movie as just being a complete embarrassment to the Godfather franchise. And I didn't come away feeling that.
This is the critical reception to the movie. No, it's not even the critical reception. Because this movie was nominated for 7 Oscars, including Best Picture and Best Director. And it was also cinematography and film editing.
Is this just backlash? Is that all it is? Is it just backlash from something being popular that the critics don't want it to be popular?
Well, we're just blown away by the fact that they're simply a competent movie that's well thought out. You know, like,
I agree.
Good is now amazing because we don't get a lot of good.
I thought it was pretty incredible that he was able to bring back the Coppola of the prestige 70s after movies like Outsiders, Rumblefish, Peggy Sue Got Married, the Tucker movie, right? Man in His Dream. Didn't he do that one?
Yeah. Big Pop.
Where he was like where it felt like you didn't even have to put his name on these movies because they were just movies. They weren't Coppola movies, you know? They were just movies in the 80s that he was doing for paychecks, or he was just having fun being an independent movie filmmaker again. But he was able to be that Godfather Coppola again in 3. I really felt it.
It's like Godfather is oil painting, and the guy just loves painting. And he really enjoys watercolors, though, and that's what he does all through the 80s. But he's never really gotten good at watercolors. And even though he prefers them, when he pulls out those oil paints, it's like he always has the tools. Like, every movie could be in the shade of The Godfather, but he just doesn't decide to do it. And I think that's interesting.
Whenever he makes these kind of movies, it seems like he has nothing but a hard time doing them. So maybe that's also it.
Yes.
Gets a fight with everyone and everything involved with this movie to get it done when he makes one of these kind of movies. Now, I don't know if that's what happened with Godfather 3, but I know that's what happened with Apocalypse Now, of course, and even The Godfather, because it was unproven at that time. But he had to fight off everything in order to get that movie made the way he wanted to get it made. So when you make a movie like Peggy Sue Got Married, no one's telling you anything. They're just letting you make a goddamn movie. I'm sure the producers aren't like, you need to do this and do this. They're like, no, who you casting? Kathleen Turner? Sure, whatever. We don't care. Nicolas Cage? I don't even know who that is. Sure, go ahead. But suddenly everybody's got an opinion when you want to make a Godfather movie or something prestige.
Yeah. These movies, Texasville, Godfather 3, The Two Jakes, that's the funny part about Jack Nicholson is so many legacy sequels are a reflection of the character and the expectations of their lives and them reflecting on what they thought life was going to be compared to where life is. Over and over, that's the main arc of a legacy sequel. With The Two Jakes, it's more like Jack Nicholson being like, I fucking love it. I'm going to do this all the time. Is there growth? I forget with that movie.
His ways are kind of vintage, and he's a little out of touch. And he's hounded by this failure of the past. And he's just trying to make it in this new world of the 1950s.
Like, he's the one who's like, I'm not going to change. Everybody else is changing. I don't need to change shit.
But then Texasville, you're right. It's all about them just being like, life sucks now. I was supposed to be cool. Things were supposed to get better. But this goddamn town, I should have known it. It kept me in a rut, and here I am. But you know what? I guess we'll enjoy the rut.
I love that movie so much.
Yeah, it's good.
Ah.
Who would have thought that would have been so good? Andy
I know.
Fox and all that.
And The Godfather 3 fills that similar hole with Michael always thinking about the past now. When you really break Michael down, he is less and less romantic. He's a man of honor, but he's also like a big baby. This isn't how it was supposed to go. I was supposed to be the hero. I'm not the hero. You know, you're all the heroes. I'm the bad guy. Boo-hoo. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. For this movie, I watched The Godfather Part 3, and then I watched The Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone.
See, that's what I wanted to know. What did you think about the Coda? I didn't watch Coda. I needed to know.
They streamline the story. Like, it's more succinct. Godfather 3 starts with a ceremony in a church where Michael's getting an award. And The Godfather Coda starts with the scene where Michael is meeting with the Archbishop and wants control of the company.
Wow, okay.
It cuts immediately to the party afterwards, where we meet everybody. So it starts with, I need this money. I lost all this money and I need this money. Help me. Then we go to that after party where the charity gives them $100 million. And then that turns it into a down payment on the $600 million that he wanted. Instead of in The Godfather 3, it's the award, the party with him giving $100 million with no context. Yeah. And then later, he asked for an additional $600 million.
I always took that as a down payment. That's why because the Archbishop said that they were down like $700 million. He was offering $5, and he said, I want $6. That's why I felt that $100 million he previously gave him was kind of a down payment. That's why he wasn't asking for $7.
Well, considering that he asked for the money well after, it doesn't connect them.
Well, it connected it, and as in, that's why he didn't ask for the full $7, because he knows that he already gave him $100. That's all I mean. So he goes, well, I don't want to be greedy.
It's just little stuff like that.
But again, that so far what you're saying none of that bothered me, you know. So I didn't feel it needed to be fixed.
I don't know. It's just pacing. The pacing's a little tighter. That's all.
But see, the pacing of 2 felt long to me, you know, and I think only because they were able to cut to De Niro's story that it still made it feel like a Godfather movie, whereas Godfather 2 and what Michael was doing, it felt long and laborious to me, like where he's doing the casino thing, and then he's pissed off about the Hyman, you know, in Florida, and then there's the Cuban aspect. Like, it felt like a long movie that was going away from what Godfather was all about.
Those were the initial reviews.
So that's why this felt totally like a Godfather movie to me, watching number 3.
Well, and they cut out the lake house. All that was just gone, showing the deserted lake house.
See, I like stuff like that. I
did too.
I like seeing in legacy sequels what things look like now after so many years. I think you saw the car, right, that he bought his son. I think that was in there, but maybe not.
I don't know.
But you knew it.
Like
You were
that.
yes.
That turns into nowadays that everybody complains about Easter eggs for the
Totally.
audience.
I
You're
get
just
you.
spoon feeding them drivel.
Right.
And I could see that.
But again, when we saw how River Phoenix became Indiana Jones and got his fucking hat, we loved it
We did.
in Last Crusade, and now we complain about it when we see it in Ghostbusters. So now I don't know why I'm so pissed off about it.
And I thought it was a great symbol of Michael not being able to let go of the past.
Mm-hmm.
They have been out of there for years, but he won't let that property do anything. He just wants it. He never wants anybody to live there. It's just going to sit there and rot like his memories, Aaron. Like his memories.
He did let go of the whole crime family. He let go of all the casinos. And not only was he wealthy, like Coppola went for broke. He's like, I don't want him to just be wealthy. I want him to be super fucking rich. Who gives a donation of $100 million? Number one.
In 1979.
Exactly. And then number two, he wants to buy a company owned by the Vatican.
I think the timing is that it's less than a year since they've gone legitimate. I don't feel like he feels good. Like, I'm legitimate now, yeah. Like, I feel like he's just still tying up the loose ends.
But, you know, I mean, the movie makes it clear that it's impossible to be who you were as a godfather and ever be rid of the problems that plagued you as a godfather. I mean, that's the whole point of the movie, that even though you want to be legitimate, not only are you feeling like you can never be redeemed, but the family won't let you go. Is this where that famous line comes from? Like, I thought I was out, but then they pulled me back in. I think that he said it in the movie, so I'm just like, oh, this must be where this is from. Okay.
Yeah, it's where it came
Yeah, I
from.
don't know. Well, who knew what Godfather... Everybody fucking hated Godfather 3. All I've ever heard my whole life is what a piece of shit movie it is. So why would there ever be a classic line from that movie?
Because Pacino was entering his 90s era.
I couldn't help but think of, like, we're in this Scent of a Woman Pacino era, so it's hard to think of him as the Michael he used to be, because now he's hoo-ah.
Yes, I thought of Hua a couple times. So yeah, Michael's legitimate now. Does he spend time with his family? They live with his mom.
Oh, they're always around. I mean, he's seeing everybody all the time. He even brings Kay back.
I think before this, I don't think they were around a ton.
But he doesn't have a lot of family. I mean, it's really just Connie, whose sister, who's Talia Shire, and she's been around. She's been helping ever since.
We actually need to call this out real quick. The main problem with this movie, if you want to call it a problem, everybody's kids are missing. Connie's kids are missing.
Yeah.
Sonny's kids are missing. Who do we see? We see Tom Hagen's kid.
Yeah.
Because he's a priest.
Well, because what's his name didn't want to do the movie.
Because he was getting offered no money. He was pissed, Pacino, because he was way bigger.
What's his name?
Duvall. Robert Duvall.
Yeah, Robert Duvall. Like one of the famous actors of all time. I cannot remember his name for some reason. So, what's his name steps in basically in the Tom Hagen. George Hamilton.
That's his name? Wasn't he the Treasury Secretary? No, that's Alexander Hamilton.
Yeah, that's Alexander Hamilton.
Gotta have faith, 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 baby. Who is that?
That's George Michael.
George Michael, yes. So Michael's legitimate. Connie, his sister, has stayed on with him as his advisor ever since the events of Godfather Part 2. His kids, Anthony and Mary. Okay, the other thing that makes this such a legacy sequel is most of the time with the legacy sequel, we see the events of the first movie kind of replay out.
Yeah, that movie's got this going on big time.
Big time, where I'd hate to bring up Force Awakens, but I'm bringing up Force Awakens. I don't know if you've ever seen The Force Awakens. Have you?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, it's about a girl who grows up on a desert planet. Because she runs into some people, she gets brought in to this big fight between good people and bad people.
Hey, let me just say first off, though, it's not the same. It's not the same desert planet. It's completely different.
I'm just illustrating what a legacy sequel is, for the most part. So, this movie, Michael is now the Godfather.
Yeah, see, but it is different because he's not the Godfather. He's not the family Corleone Godfather.
Yeah. He pisses off an enemy by not wanting to do a deal. This time it's money laundering. He survives an assault, ends up in the hospital, has his younger protege take over. Yeah, it's just beat for beat.
And Brando was weakened, but it didn't bother me because you had Al Pacino stepping into the lead role. I love Andy Garcia, and he really holds his own as an actor in this movie, but he's not Michael Al Pacino stepping in for Brando. It's not as appealing as Al Pacino's story was in the first one to follow.
Right.
So when they weaken Pacino in this movie, it's kind of a letdown to me because he's so fucking weak through the whole movie, and it's still his movie. They treat Vincent, Andy Garcia's character, as if he's the new Michael, but he's not the lead of the movie. He's not given that lead, so it's a little different. They weaken Michael, and it just feels like a little weird to me, the whole movie.
You're absolutely right, and while we go with it, we're not completely sold on it.
Exactly. It's kind of depressing, like when he has to have a fucking diabetic attack with that Archbishop and needs something sweet. I need some orange juice. I'm just like, man, this is not showing how
in that
powerful
scene
you are.
though, like he clicks his fingers, the guy goes off screen for
he
1
walks
second
immediately
and comes back immediately back with everything. It's like, go get the diabetic kid, it's happening again.
I just thought like he must have caught him right after breakfast because he's just like, oh yeah, we were just about to take this card away, but luckily here's everything you had this morning.
There's still orange juice and candies right there. Oh, do you think that's an Andy Garcia failure, or do you think that's just a failure in the movie? Because the reason you feel that way, I think, is the same reason I do, which is they introduce him as Sonny's son and a hothead. And the minute we see that, we don't see anything to signal that we don't think he could ever not be a hothead.
Right.
So we just never fully trust him all the way through the movie, expecting him like a double cross from him.
Yes. There was some sort of double cross happening with him and Bridget Fonda at the beginning. And then she left the movie and nothing ever came about it. So
that was just him trying to get laid.
But she
That's
was a
all that
reporter
was.
trying to get close to Michael. And this is how I took it. They didn't know each other.
Oh, I think you're wrong in what you're about to say.
I probably am,
yeah,
but this
go.
is how I took it. This is how the movie unfolded to me at the beginning.
Yeah.
Bridget Fonda's a reporter that wants to get close to Michael. Vincent is hitting on her because he doesn't know her. We see them later. They do know each other, and it's all some sort of spy thing where he is trying to infiltrate into the Corleone family to get info for her. That is how the movie unfolded to me. And then we never see her again. So then I was corrected in being like, oh, I guess it was just a one-night stand and they really didn't know each other. And she has no designs on trying to figure out what the Corleone family's doing.
Oh, see, I never took it that way.
I feel like her story was bigger in some fashion, but then they just cut her out.
He went to that party with his mom.
Perfect cover.
No, he just thought she was hot. And they're talking. And she's like, can you get me to talk to Michael?
Right.
And he's like, yeah, no, I can't do that. And then when she goes up to him, she's just a little weasel who's like, Vincent, this guy said I could talk to you. Is that okay? She was just using his name to try to get in.
Yeah, no, I understand it. It's just a whole bunch of nothing.
She just shouldn't have been a reporter.
It was Bridget Fonda. It was a known actress. They should have put somebody who wasn't...
Oh, see, I had no idea who she was.
Oh, she's been in like everything. You see her in a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Single white female, I think she was in that movie. I don't know. She was big back then.
I'm aware of who she is.
Yeah, okay. I'm just saying that she should have been just some no-name actress. Then you wouldn't think that she would be a star in the movie. So that was weird to me.
That's interesting.
And to answer your question, it's a failure in screenwriting because they wouldn't commit to giving Andy the lead. They still wanted to make it Michael's movie because they knew they were going to kill him off at the end, so it had to be Michael's movie. So then I'm like, well, why did they Godfather him? Why did they first movie everything just to keep Michael the lead? I don't know.
I was reading an interview with Coppola around something coming out, one of his weird experimental movies. And he was just talking about making this movie and how there was no Godfather 3. You know, like everything was self-contained in the book. Me and Puzo came up with this. It was great. We were going to do a part 4. It never got very far. Garcia was in. Part 4, the nugget of an idea was another split movie like Godfather 2. Robert De Niro coming back with Andy Garcia after this. Kind of his fall, which I think would have been bad, but...
Yeah. I see. Andy Garcia's good, but he's no Pacino.
I mean, he's the one who got nominated for the award. Like, he was good in this movie.
He could hold his own with the likes of Pacino. And this is where we come to one of the biggest problems of the movie is Sofia Coppola's performance.
I was fine with it.
She's a very beautiful young woman in this movie. I think she fits as the look of the Corleone family, but she just couldn't equal the acting prowess of Pacino, Diane Keaton, or Andy Garcia. Like, she just felt the dialogue felt really bad with her.
And people say that Winona Ryder would have been better, but I don't think she would have.
I think she would have definitely been better, but I think Coppola had the look.
Okay, here's my question. Was Sofia Coppola bad, or was her storyline just fucking obnoxious?
She was kind of bad. The storyline I thought was fine. I still felt like it was touching at the end. Like it felt like a tragedy. So it's really just her dialogue. It just didn't work for me. She just couldn't pull off the line readings.
I feel like if the entire reason for her being the movie wasn't to fuck her cousin, that she could have been better.
No, you got to get over that. That didn't bother me as much. It was weird, but it didn't. I think she portrayed a young girl, a real young girl, like a 19-year-old. Like, she just felt young. I think she portrayed her perfectly fine. And it was sad that she was killed at the end. Like, I got all of that. I really just feel like her dialogue was atrocious.
I like that she would still be alive if she hadn't been fucking her cousin.
Michael would still have a daughter if he had told his son, no, you can't be an opera singer. You have to go to law school, and made him do it. You could say that, but that's not the way the story went.
No, you can't. That didn't have any impact on anything.
Well, they wouldn't have been there at the show.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. I was expecting Michael had paid for him to get that thing, and then he was going to never forgive his dad.
Yeah.
Like, I was waiting for that to drop.
Now that you say that, that would make more sense, because it was just another thread that, of course, it went somewhere at least, but it just felt like another aside. Michael says no, he does it anyways, and it all works out. And that doesn't seem very Godfather to me.
Well, he wanted Kay's forgiveness, and so that's why he let him.
Right.
Because he's reflecting on his life, and he's not happy. You talked about something earlier about being legitimate and not. And I feel like the moral of this movie is we're seeing being legitimate is just as seedy and stupid as being illegitimate. It's kind of the statement of, your morality is nonsense, and it really just depends on where you're at in life,
right,
on what's just and not just.
Well, and even look at who was in the Vatican who was corrupt. I mean, it was just, they're saying like everything's corrupt. If it comes to money and power, politics, everything's corrupt.
The more powerful you are, the more acceptable it is to be corrupt.
Exactly.
I like that, because it just reinforces that I'm allowed to start a crime family.
I mean, you could try. Doesn't mean it'll be successful. I mean, the big drive in this movie is that Joey Zaza, who is Joe Mantegna's character, is basically the new Don of the New York Corleone family, right? But he's like shitty at it. Everybody hates him.
He's just a nobody.
Yeah, he's just a nobody.
Like,
he's just a thug.
I read about it. He was third down in Clemenza's hierarchy.
So the crime family has lost its luster. So that's why Michael doesn't even care, because Vincent, Andy Garcia's character, just can't stand this guy. He wants to be the Don. Although he doesn't really say he wants to be the Don.
Nope.
But now that I see the whole movie, I understand that's why he just thinks this guy's an idiot. So, but being Sonny's son, he wants to get in good with Michael. And Michael, he's like, yeah, well, you're my nephew, I guess. So you can be part of what I'm trying to do. But hey, I'm not some crime family anymore. I'm trying to be legitimate. So if you want to be with me, you can be my strong man, but you gotta be legitimate. But that's like the drive of the movie, is that Joey Zaza knows that people think of him as a thug. He doesn't like Michael because of that. So he basically is pushed into having a hit on Michael at that casino thing. Is that what the deal is? It's not his idea completely, but the other crime families are trying to take him out.
It's not his idea at all. The crux of this movie is the American mob is cool, but the European mob is much older and much stronger. There's always been the mob in Sicily that the American mob has spoken to. When Michael wants this giant company of the Vaticans, the Sicilians are already there stealing money out of it. Those are the guys that took the 700 million out from the Archbishop. When Michael's taking it over, they're pissed, and they get the guy that used to communicate between the Sicilians and so Michael's old Don friend, whatever.
Don Ottobello.
Ottobello. They recruit him to set up Michael. And that's essentially the movie, is the big Sicilians being mad at Michael because they don't want him to take their pie away. And Michael's like, I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna, be
Yeah, I'm
legitimate.
legitimate now. I can do what I want. But wouldn't he have known that they were part of that?
No, because it was secret.
But why would it be secret from Don Corleone? It just seems like that he would have been in on it.
Outside of America, he knows stuff, but he's not the boss.
It's just a little convenient that he doesn't know that, I thought.
Yeah, it's true because he knows the money's missing.
He knew how much money was missing. The Archbishop said it was 700 million, and he said 769. Like, he knew the figure because George Hamilton, his new Tom Hagen, basically keeps him abreast of those figures and all of the money workings.
So that part I don't know. Like, if he knew what he was doing or if he was just flexing and thinking that he was strong enough to have everybody fall in line.
Yeah, maybe he thought that he could do it anyways because I'm Don Corleone. I'm super wealthy now. I can do whatever I want.
Yeah. But anyway, that's the movie.
Yeah, pretty much. And then Sofia Coppola's character Mary gets caught in the crossfire. Michael says, like, when he's weakened and he's letting Vincent have more say in what to do and how to take revenge, he tells him that they'll come after who you love. And it happens outside the opera where Tony, his son, is singing in his opera debut, and Mary gets shot and killed.
Problems with the movie, but that section of it went on for so long and was so suspenseful.
It was.
Like, I was on the edge of my seat, not knowing what was going to happen, and it was awesome. Like, it was great filmmaking.
Exactly. I thought it was great. And I see, that's why I don't think the pacing of the movie needs to be changed. I think you could probably just drop some things, but I thought the pacing was fine. Like, what does Coda change about all that? Do they streamline anything else, or do they just kind of cut off?
Just little bits. A scene that was a minute 30 would become a minute 27. Stuff like that.
Right.
Like,
there was no scenes that
anything
were
that wasn't.
They were all 5 minutes or more. Trust me.
But yeah, that's the idea.
Okay, so it's called Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone. Did they shoot any more of him dying? Because he dies in the end of 3 in about a minute 27. So there's not much more to him dying than just being a coda, basically, of Godfather 3. It's just a tacked on, here he is as an older man, alone, back in Sicily. Everyone paid the price and basically had to die before their time, but he had to suffer, live a whole life watching everyone die, and then he just dies alone.
So do you want to know what changes with the coda?
Yeah, what does Coda do to that?
He doesn't die.
He doesn't die. But the movie is specifically called The Death of Michael Corleone.
So what does that mean? Let's think about it.
Know. Just tell me.
Are we talking about the death of the man? Because at the end, what we get is a broken shell of a person.
Sure.
He dies in the same way that Vito Corleone dies.
Playing with his
He dies
son?
sitting,
Or grandson?
but except a very specific difference. What's the right way to say this? Nobody dies with dignity. Whenever somebody dies, it's always awkward and it doesn't matter where it is. And so the way that he dies, falling over in a chair, isn't special, even though people try to make it seem like it. It's just a death. And he dies just like his dad, except his dad dies playing with his grandkids, and Michael dies watching some cats roll around on the ground. And he never leaves Sicily. He's broken and empty, and he just lives at that estate for another 20 years alone and dies. So what he's trying to do is he's trying to take away the literal death in Coda and say that this man died on that night. They don't need to show him dying because they already did on those steps. Yeah.
1 to 10. Like, what do you give 1, 2, and 3, 1 to 10 is what I'm wondering. Like, what is 1, what is 2, and what is 3, 1 to 10?
1 is 10 stars, or a 10. 2 is a 9. And
what's 3?
3 is a 7.
3 is a 7. I would say 1 is a 10. I agree. I've never understood this whole thing about number 2 being even better than the first. I think people just like to say that.
It's the pacing that makes it a 9. You're right. Because they're so similar in the way that we're watching an arc of a man's life. It's great storytelling and it's great filmmaking. It's just the structure of it was, if they had figured out a way to do a 2 with the same structure as 1, it would probably be better.
Everything that happens in 1 is interesting and necessary.
Yeah.
2 is great, but there's things that are going on in 2 that inherently aren't that interesting. The stuff with the casino and Cuba and his visits to the
See,
guy
it's so
in
funny.
Florida.
I love that stuff.
Like, it's all good and
Yeah.
it all makes sense and it comes together, but there's just a lot going on that's not that interesting. So that's why I just don't think it's as good. So I agree. I think 1 is a 10. I would say 2 is a 9, maybe an 8 if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
And I would say The Godfather 3 is a solid 6. It's got some big problems, but it's not a bad movie.
Yeah.
So of course you would say 1, 2, 3 is how the order would go.
I know it is totally 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I think that's kind of it. Final thoughts on
Anything
Godfather?
else about there's I feel like there's something interesting we missed from this movie, but I can't think of what it is.
I just don't know why. I've said it probably last episode, and I've been saying it since we've been talking about Godfather. Is there's a line in some show or movie where she's like, "You're a white man." It's not hard to guess. It's either Godfather, Star Wars, or Shawshank Redemption. Like in terms of movies
Yeah.
that white men love.
I see. Yeah. Right.
And it's really true for me personally. Like, this movie is amazing.
I watched it because everybody said I should, but I generally appreciate the first movie a lot, and that makes me like the other two.
Shawshank is not on my list of like
I've never seen it.
all-time
so
amazings. I always
yeah,
forget what
we'll be
movies we
talking about
haven't
that
seen.
all the
That's
time.
one you haven't
That's
seen.
the one I haven't seen.
I still haven't seen Top Gun.
Yeah, that's right. You haven't seen Top Gun.
There's a reason it's called a stereotype.
Yeah, I think they're inherently not true, but society believes it to be true.
Yes, yes. We haven't talked about how the Godfathers always have little bits of real world in them. Because in this movie, we have a pope installed who dies rather quickly, just like the real John Paul I, who died after only 33 days. And then this movie had the scandal of the Vatican Bank.
Right.
And there was a real Vatican Bank scandal.
Okay.
And like the guy hanging under the bridge, like was a real Vatican Bank guy that killed himself hanging under a bridge. All the hits at the end of this movie, while obviously not 100% accurate, were very reminiscent of events that actually happened in the late 70s.
Talk about another thread that didn't go anywhere was when he confesses his sins to the Archbishop, who then becomes the Pope. I was like, oh, well, now that he's the Pope, he's not going to let this deal go through because he knows the truth about Corleone and everything. And then, no, he does let it go through. He likes Corleone, even though he told him he was a murderer. And now the Pope's dead.
Like the whole point of Michael going to him was that guy knows what's up. And he's like them. And so, yeah, he knows who Michael is.
But then when he became the Pope, I thought his character would have to change. Well, now that I'm His Holiness, I need to set this church correct. And we can't be in business with this guy. I know his true soul. But that didn't happen. It just didn't happen at all.
No, because
He just got killed off.
you didn't take the message of the more powerful you are, the more corrupt you are.
Sure.
No, he was the most powerful man, and he was corrupt as hell.
Was he corrupt, though?
Yeah,
Why was he
because
corrupt?
he was letting Michael take over the big business.
Yeah, I just thought that I don't know. I didn't see it as being corrupt. I just saw it as being
I mean, not necessarily corrupt. Our
forgiving.
version of Michael's corrupt.
Yeah.
You know?
You're right.
Like, he's not a straight man. He's a Sicilian, or he's from
Right.
Italy.
But
Like,
why was he a threat?
It wasn't.
Well, they had to take him out. They took him out, though.
Who took him out?
I don't know. Who took him out?
The guys who were in charge of the bank took him out. The guys that were currently pilfering the bank.
Yeah. But weren't those connected with the Sicilians?
Yeah, the bad ones. They were trying to take Michael out. The Pope was on Michael's side.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And so it was the
So
other.
he was
it
corrupt,
the
but
bad
he was
guys.
on the wrong side of corrupt, as far as the Sicilians were concerned.
Yeah, they needed their Pope to do their bidding.
Yes,
and this
but now
Pope was
he
going
was
to do
doing
Michael's
I
bidding.
see. Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah. And so they.
Gotcha.
Because I believe, yeah, he was found dead in bed.
So
as
is it
well
just a
from heart
roll of the
attack.
dice where they're like, okay, I hope they now elect a pope who will do our bidding, or are we gonna have to kill the new guy too? Well, I guess we'll just wait and see.
I mean, I'm sure just like the one that looked like Palpatine, he resigned because he was too old. I'm sure there was a secret reason for that.
Okay, I don't know. It just
Who
felt like they
knows?
shouldn't have let that guy become pope if he was that much of a threat, because they can't just keep killing popes. It's gonna look bad.
Yeah.
See, before I saw part 3, I always assumed Michael killed the pope and had the pope killed, which I always thought was a cool move for the Godfather 3, where I was just like, damn, this is the one where Michael has the pope killed. He's the Godfather.
Okay, that actually would have
Yeah,
been pretty cool.
But then it didn't happen, so that was another letdown where I was like, oh, the pope does get murdered, but it's not by him. Ah, that's too bad.
You know, another thing that makes Vincent, and then we'll get wrapped up after this,
Yeah.
but like Vincent not pulling off the character that we would care about, like that we want to be running this family, is the fact that Mary dies.
Yeah.
He fails to do the basic thing of protecting his family.
I mean, maybe it's all about him. Like, whoever's in charge, they're gonna make the same mistakes and be just as incapable, be just as fallible as anyone. I don't know. Like, I like Danny Garcia's character. I thought he was good, but yeah, he does become the new Don because Michael kind of coronates him. So he's like, now you're in charge of the family, so he becomes the new Godfather.
Yeah, he was like, now you're Vincent Corleone.
Yeah, so that's cool. I was
Instead
happy
of
for him.
Vincent Mancini.
But the lack of Michael's care about who ran the family was still very much in my head. Like, he didn't really give a shit who ran the family anymore. So is it that great of an honor?
I think the point was supposed to be that there wasn't a family to run. Like,
That's
he
what I
gave it to
mean.
Zaza.
There's not much going on.
You know, yeah.
He, even not Michael, in the year 79, felt like this whole New York crime, it was just a relic. That's just how he treated it. Oh, they're just a bunch of... Like, I'm big time now. What they're doing back there, that's old time. That's like what my dad would do. I'm not doing that anymore.
I like that Anthony's story is the coolest. You know, we see him after Mary dies finally give in and join the Corleone family. And then him and Vincent struggle for power, but obviously he wins because he's Michael's son. To this very day. I mean, we both know that Anthony Corleone is the leader of the 5 families. They could have done it.
Yeah.
They just didn't say it happened.
Right.
It could have happened.
It could.
That's the power of storytelling.
That's the power of my imagination. I can make things up after movies end.
All right, let's call this good.
Call it good.
Thanks for listening.
As always.
Tune in to more episodes. Comment to us on social media. We'll find it and respond eventually. We want you to want us. Bye.